Hello, and welcome back to the Have We Made It Yet podcast. I am one of your co-hosts, the comedian Josh Yang.
And I am the actor, Lucas Ng.
Yes, he is. And you know what? At the top of our podcast, a podcast about two creatives trying to make it. Yeah, I keep forgetting the through line.
I do
Sometimes
too.
when I do the intros, I gotta, people, new listeners gotta know what we're about. Okay, basically what it is two creatives just starting on their journey to making it in the industry, whatever that means. We'll try to figure it out. And then we talk about it, and then we always have guests on to also talk about their experience in making it. So usually, but we can't start without asking each other, Lucas, have you made it yet?
Me? Absolutely no. And one realization that I've had these past 2 days, and literally right before when we started recording, I just got another rejection email. And so, man, if there's anything that I'm learning, continually learning about this whole crazy industry, it's to be okay with disappointment and to not be so emotionally attached to things, because, man, it ain't about you. It's about the bigger picture. So you're not going to get everything. So don't hold on to everything because it will hurt too much in the end. But on that really, really positive note, Josh, I hope you have more uplifting news.
Oh, so uplifting.
Mr. Josh Yang.
Yes.
Have you made it yet?
I have not made it yet. And definitely I haven't been doing as much as you per se. But you know what I have been getting into? I've been getting into headbands. That's what I've been getting into, because you know what? My hair it's been getting longer and longer. You can see you got a little Kim Jong-un poof there. So in order to stop that, I've been getting into headbands, and they've been keeping it nice and tight, little flow in the back. Really going for that Japanese soccer look. I'm trying to be a Japanese soccer player. I was growing out a little bit here. So you know what? That's my update. I'm getting into headbands.
Are you going to grow anything up here too?
It's not my choice if I'm going to grow anything up there. It's whatever grows up there.
Oh.
But I'll try to see what happens. But you know what? It's actually starting to connect a little. But that's not what we're talking about here. Kind of. Okay. We're talking about making it. And you know what? Today's guest, I am very excited about today's guest.
Dude. Intro him, man. I can't wait.
I'll lay it on you.
Yeah.
Our next guest today, I'm very excited, Lucas, for our next guest. I've never actually met him before, so not the best start. But the reason I say that is because it's a small world, Lucas, and we've said that before. We haven't, you never know the people you meet and who they know are actually pursuing this ethereal making it idea that we have. Funny enough, my roommate and good friend, Ryan, went to high school with our current guest for this episode. And it just goes to show you never know. And then once I started looking more into our guest's kind of discography, the work that he's done, I got even more excited. He is a Vancouver-based actor. He's appeared in several episodes of well-known Vancouver television productions like Arrow and The Good Doctor.
Nice.
Yes, Asian remake, actually. So I appreciate that. And you can see him actually in a multi-episode arc last year on the sci-fi show Van Helsing. And you can see him for the first time on the big screen in the movie, actually the romantic drama, Two Hearts, as Shep. Please welcome Ryan Jinn.
Woo!
Oh, hey guys.
Welcome.
I appreciate what you're saying here. I got my headband as well. I feel you, Josh, with the quarantine hair and everything. It gets long, so.
Oh yeah, yo, the headband look is a mood, as I've been discovering.
I love what you're saying. I definitely feel like a Korean soccer player when I have it on. So yeah, same vibe.
That's what we want to go for. And you know what, Ryan? Thank you for coming on to the show and the podcast. And we got to ask you right off the top, have you made it yet?
The short answer to that one is, and I know I've seen the show, so I know I'm allowed to swear. So the short answer to that is fuck no.
Oh, okay.
But I've been thinking about how I was going to answer this question. So I wanted to know, like, what is your guys' definition of making it? Like, by what standard would you say one would have made it, because by my standard, the answer is absolutely not. But you know, at the same time, I'm the worst when it comes to celebrating like the small wins along the way.
Yeah.
You know, actors, I think in general are, and I'm such a champion of that for other people. I'm like, hey, if you book this small thing, doesn't matter. Congratulations, you're making progress. But when it comes to me, I'm like, doesn't matter. It's not big enough. It's not, you know. But I'm getting better at recognizing that I've come a long way already. But still, I think my goals are too big to ever say that I've made it. And
Interesting. Well, I mean, like we ask this question because it's kind of like, you know, how when people start thinking about the idea, it's like, oh, that this famous actor, popular actors made it on the movie screens at award shows. Oh, he's made it. But then you see these interviews with some of these actors, and they're also like, they're not sure. They get the idea, but then maybe internally they don't feel like they've made it. So even though it seems like it's the question that everybody wants answered, nobody really knows. And what we've discovered is like everybody does have their own approach towards that question. And that's why we always like to kind of let the guest dive into it however they want, because really there's no real answer. I think.
Yeah, I mean, you hear interviews with people, it's like, dude, you just won an Oscar. What do you mean you don't know if you were good enough to do this or something, you know?
Yeah.
And I keep trying to remind myself, like when I first walked into acting class and, you know, you had the more experienced guys come in, it's like, that guy's been on this show, that guy's been on this show or whatever. And like, if I were to hear somebody tell my younger self of the things I've done up until this point, I would be going crazy, right? But it's all relative, and like I said, my goals are lofty, and until probably not even the day that I achieve those goals will I feel like I made it, right? There's always the next goal. There's always the next thing.
Exactly.
But that's what keeps you hungry, man. That's what keeps you going, especially in an industry like this where you're constantly faced with rejection.
Yeah.
Right? But hey, the fact that you got a rejection letter in and of itself is like, I love those because I'm like, oh, at least I know now, right? So often it's just silence, right?
For sure. Closure actually matters a lot, at least in this industry. So it's good to actually get a definite no instead of a maybe yes, and they keep you on hold for so long.
I know for me, like we all have kind of lofty. I remember as a kid when I was thinking like, oh, I might want to be a director. Oh, I definitely want to win best director at the Oscars. Or like now that I'm kind of thinking of comedy, I want to like perform in theaters or go at famous theaters like the Beacon, or even just like perform at the Comedy Cellar in New York. Is like those type of kind of lofty goals.
That one day, the energy in that place is crazy. Like
unbelievable.
The Comedy Cellar is, oh my gosh, it's insane.
Yeah, and like I think even though it's like they may seem too lofty, like we should still have them, because you can kind of might as well reach as tall as high as possible. I know you've mentioned a couple is like you feel like your lofty goals might be too big, but it's like give us a lofty goal and we'll see whether or not it's too big.
Yeah, why not? It might be lofty now, but it might not be years down the line, and who knows?
Yeah. All right, so I'm gonna hold you to it. What's one of them?
Oh man, like I've always said that my goal for like my life as an actor in general is to just be able to make a living and live life as an actor primarily. I work as a bartender right now as well, and I actually really enjoy it and I like it a lot. But the goal is to eventually one day just act and have that be pretty much my only source of income, or something in that realm, whether it's teaching or whether it's writing or doing some, let's call it peri-acting activity kind of thing, but having that be it. That's sort of like I would be happy at the end of my life kind of goal. But let's be real, I want to be at the top of the mountain. I want to do all those things, and I recognize all the challenges that are in my way. But like you said, why not have those goals? Like I'm happy when I'm an old man and haven't achieved any of that. If it's like, well, at least I went for it, So that was the big thing that I was thinking about when I first got into this to begin with. So why not aim high?
I like it.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Like I noticed that, you've trained in many different studios within Vancouver. So you've put in the work, like with Jeb Beach and the Actors Foundry and all that stuff there too. Can you go into a bit more, like we talked previously about the rejections that we face, and in the audition room, it's a very intense kind of situation there. Can you go into a bit of the work that you've learned from those acting coaches about what you do to prepare you for those auditions and how you still stay positive when they don't go your way?
Yeah, well, I mean, one of the consistent things that I found through any acting, any actor or anything like that, it's all the same thing. You got to pick and choose what works for you. No one teacher is gonna give you the manual that you're then gonna use for the rest of your life, right?
Yeah.
But for me, I've been fortunate to work with a lot of great coaches and a lot of great people. And for me personally, I'm very fortunate to have learned early on, and I owe a lot to Matthew Harrison at the Actors Foundry where I first got started.
Cool.
I learned a lot going from zero acting ability and experience whatsoever. I learned very quickly that auditioning isn't you going in to win a part. It's you going in to fill out an ensemble, right?
Okay.
And that's sort of along the lines of what everybody talks about when it comes to, there are so many external factors that go into casting. And having been on the other side of casting myself a number of times, I can recognize that even more so now. And, even as simply as like, hey, you're 6'1", well, she's 5'2", so we can't have you guys together because it's gonna look like you're kidnapping her or something. It's like there are certain things that you have literally zero control over that affects that. So, I learned early on that I wasn't going in there to compete. I wasn't going there to fight over these other guys that are in the room with me. I'm there to present my option as somebody that they might want to cast. And that really helped a lot in terms of A, nerves, B, preparation, and C, just like going into the room feeling relaxed. Like I'm no longer going into the room and seeing all these people and be like, I'm going to beat you. I'm going to beat you. I'm going to beat you. Like, I've got this. No, it's like, I honestly, I go in there. I've made friends with a lot of guys in my demo and, we'll chop it up. We'll talk about nothing, right? Nothing to do with the audition or whatever. And oftentimes I'll be like, hey, do you feel good? Like you're next. Do you want to read? In particular, I don't want to name names, but there are certain guys in the room, and I try to reciprocate as well, where it's literally like they'll go in and come out and be like, hey, so this is what the director's looking for. So make sure you kind of like say it this way, and it's more of us helping each other and us giving each other the best shot as opposed to competing, which is so much nicer than going into the room and like hiding behind your sides and trying not to make eye contact with anybody, right? So just that mentality honestly has helped me a lot. And then each of the coaches along the way have given me tools to add to my tool belt in terms of preparation.
Right. I love that point about they're just trying to find the player for the ensemble role. So it's not purely a selfish endeavor, which is only yourself, but you're there to fill out again, like an ensemble like the Avengers. You can't have the Avengers without Iron Man, but they need to find the right Iron Man then.
Yeah. And, it's no secret that when it comes down to the cast and crew and all that, filmmaking in general is such a team effort, right? So you're just auditioning to be part of that team. And maybe you're not the right tool for this. You're not the right instrument for this. They're looking at your cello and your violin or whatever, right? So it's just it's humbling really to be part of this big thing. And it's not about you. It's about the thing as a whole. So if you take that away, there's no longer a lot of pressure on you to go win a part or something, right?
Love it, man. So I know that I'm sure you've had this question many times on you before. You've had your whole background or I would say your educational background was in medical sciences. Yeah, like that is a pretty big jump. Of course, you can go into about like what made you do that jump and everything like that. But at the same time, and answer this however way you want to too. How did your parents first take it when you mentioned that you wanted to go into acting from medical sciences?
Yeah, not so well.
Okay.
Not so well. I'm not gonna lie to you. without going too far in depth into, you know, the whole process, but
Yeah.
so I was actually in medical school in England. I was 2.5 years away from being a doctor.
Wow.
Oof.
Whole other thing, you know?
That's close.
Yeah, and for me, it was just a case of realizing that I wasn't built for that life.
Okay.
I, you know, my entire childhood was leading up to some sort of high-powered, you know, traditional Asian family career. Like, we've all heard this story before, right? Like, I was gonna go to law school at one point in time. My dad's a lawyer, but then I pivoted. I was like, I like science. I like helping people. Why not be a doctor? So I was the one who decided to go to medical school. But when I got there, I was like, oh no, not at all. This isn't it. And you know, for me, arts was never even remotely close to a possibility. And I've heard guests on your show previously talk about something similar, where it's like, I always liked it. Drama was always my favorite class. I did like a couple of, like, you know, the grade 5 or whatever school plays or whatever. I did those, but it was always like, this is fun, and then you're gonna go do something more important. You're gonna go do science, you know, something stable. So when I ultimately made the decision to drop out of medical school, which was the first domino that had to fall in order for me to exit this life, that was a big thing. And I actually, early into medical school, decided that I didn't want to do it. But they were like, hey, this was your decision, you know, see it through. And, you know, I get that, you know, you start something, you want to finish it. But as we got deeper into it, I realized, yeah, this is definitely not for me. And it then took a couple more years after that before I started acting.
Okay.
Okay. So it
was definitely a case of like, well, I'm out of medical school, great, but what do I want to do with my life? All I knew was that I didn't want to do med school, not that I wanted to do something else. And for me, it was way more important to run towards something than away from something. And because I didn't have that something to run towards, it made it really hard to just be like, I'm just going to not do this other thing and then sit in this limbo in my life for however long, which ended up being two years or so of just like trying to figure out my life, right? So it wasn't great. I actually hid the fact that I was taking acting classes from my parents for about a year. I would just like sneak out and be like, I'm going out doing stuff, and then I would go to acting class. And it wasn't until a year later that I was finally like, hey, so I've been doing this acting. So that also didn't go too well, but they're coming around. They're coming around slowly but surely. Initially, it was a case of me telling them about acting stuff and being like, all right, sure, great. When are you going back to med school, kind of thing. And then finally it's kind of come around. It helps when you achieve some modicum of success, right? Where it's like, look, tangible results. What I'm doing. I think one of your guests was like, yeah, I finally booked a commercial and could show them I'm making money. So then they're like, okay, well, I guess fine, right?
That's the thing. Like, you always, with Asian parents, it seems like, or I feel like in general, probably parents, but like you see it a little bit more in Asian parents, whereas like they will not trust necessarily something so subjective. Because it's like, I feel like we have a very logical or very straightforward way of thinking. It's like, okay, I know this is a step, you can take, so you can get there. This is more stable, this is more secure. And then when you're looking at this, it's like, wait, you're telling me you're gonna go out there and act, and then for no reason whatsoever they may or may not choose you. It's like, how are you gonna live, or blah 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 blah.
Anytime it's a non-linear progression, it becomes really difficult to just like be okay with it. And you know, I can totally see where our parents are coming from, right? They just want us to be happy. They just want us to have a good, stable life. And that's kind of a product of the generation they grew up in, right? It was like the American dream. have a family, white picket fence, all this stuff, have, go to work, come home and do all this thing. I remember my mom saying to me one time, just finish medical school, be a doctor for a while, and then you can chase your dreams. I'm like, that's not really how this works. I'm not going to start acting when I'm 50 or whatever, because that's when you actually get out of medical school, when you're 50. You do medical, and then you're constantly training. So it's just a product of the way they were raised, and I totally get that. And there was a lot of, mom, I need you to trust me kind of stuff, because I know that this isn't something that you're going to be able to wrap your head around anytime soon. So you're absolutely right. Like, if they can see, like, oh, you did this, like my best friend, one of my best friends is an accountant, and it's like, oh yeah, you do this, you get this certification, and then after that you do this, you get this certification, and you do this, and then you get paid this much, and you can like see it, and it's easy. Yeah. With acting, it's like someone described to me as you're going on these job interviews. Auditions are job interviews, and you don't get any of those jobs. You get one out of like 200 jobs that you interview for in a year, and that rate is insane. Like, you tell that to anybody else and they're like, how do you live? And you're like, I don't really know, to be honest.
Dude, side hustles are the ones that keep us afloat, man. To this day.
Have it.
Yeah. Like, I just noticed through like researching you have a multitude of side hustles too. Of course, I wouldn't just say side hustles, because those are passion projects that you're working on. You're a director, you're a producer, you're a lot of things behind the camera, also in front of the camera too. How important do you think it is for actors to expand their craft so that it includes things behind the camera too?
You can, learning to act is a lifelong process. The day that you say, like, I figured it out, is the day that you have to stop acting. So there, while I recognize there's so much in just the acting world to learn, it definitely plateaus after a while. And, you learn all this stuff right off the bat, coming all through acting class, you learn so much, and then it peters out. You only learn so much through class, and then you get on set, and then you learn way more. And like, being on set teaches you so much more, but then that plateaus as well. And I found that the ways to combat those plateaus and those periods of stagnation are to look at those other things that I was talking about earlier, about stuff that's in the realm of filmmaking, but not acting. I loved creative writing since I was young, and trying my hand at screenwriting and that kind of stuff. It not only helped, helped me with those quieter periods between auditions or whatever, but it also helped me as an actor. You spend so much of your time breaking down scripts and learning about all this stuff that I tell every actor who's been at it for a while, chances are you know how to write. You know how you've ingested so many scripts and all that it is there. So it's just a matter of cultivating that and working that muscle in a different way, and that feeds right back into your acting. Same with directing, same with cinematography. Like, there's so many great resources online, YouTube and all sorts of other stuff that you can learn how to direct. You can learn basic cinematography online, and just changing your perspective as an actor to be able to consider those perspectives as well makes you not only a better actor, but a better person to have on set. I've noticed after I started directing a little bit myself, being directed on set becomes so much easier, because you're like, hey, for this shot, I know that I need to be facing this way because the reverse is going to be this way. And if I don't now, it's going to look weird later. Or there are so many different examples of how just knowing a little bit of the same language of the other people in the filmmaking process helps immensely as an actor.
I love it.
And
so every actor, definitely, you have to be able to do something in that realm in order to round yourself out as an actor.
Yeah, you mentioned a little bit earlier there about like YouTube, and like that is a new platform. I would still say it's still kind of new, even though it's matured quite a bit. That a lot of people, it's like zero entry to barrier, really. Like, you can, if you're thinking about acting, thinking of directing or whatever, you can actually get through your rough periods of not knowing what's going on, practice, fail on YouTube and that platform. And funny enough, going through a little bit of your history, I did find another little special connection that we all kind of have, you, me, and Lucas, is that you appeared in a Linda D video a few years ago. Funny enough, Lucas, I believe, was also in a Linda D video. Which year was that?
That was like 2016, I think. It was pretty far back. Yeah.
Pretty far back, yeah. And even more interesting enough, I knew her in university, and we had a couple classes together.
Shout out to Linda. Yeah.
Shout out to Linda.
Yet another small world connection.
Small world connection. Like it's also interesting to see, like, because I remember her in university, and I don't think I heard too much about the YouTube thing. And then over the years, you realize, oh, she's putting out some like hits on YouTube.
She churns out videos like crazy. Like she just pumps them out, which if anyone out here has made anything themselves, you know how hard that is.
Yeah.
And I've been fortunate enough to be in a couple of her videos, and to see the rate at which she releases stuff is crazy. And the quality is speaks for itself. It's a whole other thing, but just the fact that she's putting them out there that quickly is insane. And then they're great videos. So yeah, hats off to her for sure. She's been here for a long time too.
She has been like establishing, and it's like it's not like an overnight sensation. Like I remember seeing her like building her catalog of videos of content, and then you do see these sudden peaks of popularity over and then slowly growing her audience there. Like, how do you see that as like an avenue now for new creators of trying to either become an actor or directing? How effective do you see that platform?
It's funny because at this point, YouTube and the idea of like YouTube videos has been around for a little while, and the heat has sort of crested, and it's no longer like I think it's no longer like the place you need to be on if you're making stuff. Most of the time it's like TikTok or Instagram or any of those things now, right? Because those ones are just so much easier and quicker to digest, because that's the attention span of everybody nowadays.
Yeah.
That said, I have always been a champion of like, make your own stuff. Just go out and make your own stuff. And yes, I'm a director. Yes, I'm a producer, writer, but like, I'm not like doing big stuff all the time. It's not like I'm, helming a XYZ budget, whatever. Most of the stuff I've done is just like, hey, let's just get together and shoot it. And nobody's going to hand you a bunch of money to make something. So why don't you just go make something now? And phones these days are good enough to shoot your own stuff on your own. So get a bunch of friends together, do something, and regardless if it is good, if it makes it to YouTube or whatever, if no one sees it ever, you're going to learn something. And making content is never been easier. But at the same time, the market is super saturated. So measuring your expectations with like, this is going to be a hit versus I'm just making this for the sake of making it. I think that's the balance you have to achieve when you're doing stuff like that. But if you approach it with the right way, it's just a learning experience. And there are fewer and fewer excuses.
Yeah, there are.
Just go shoot something.
Exactly, especially like say during quarantine, when like suddenly there's no more production, then like a lot of different artists need to find a way to like get that creative outlet going. Interestingly enough, like I've found like an article that's talked about like a project you also kind of started during quarantine. I'm wondering if you could give us a little more insight in there. It's called like Quarantine in Love, I believe.
Oh, how did you wait? Did I post that?
It's on Google.
It's there. It's out there, man.
Great. So I'm wondering if it's the same thing even, because I'm like, I don't know how anybody. So I've kind of every now and then I'll just like get an itch to do something. And unlike a lot of your guests in the past, I'm not constantly doing stuff. Like sometimes I hear those stories, I'm like, oh my God, I'm so lazy. Like I sit around, I do nothing. I play with my cat. Like I do nothing. But then every now and then I'll just be like, I gotta do this thing. So for me, it's less like consistently just like grinding and more just striking while the iron's hot kind of thing.
Mm.
And for this particular one, I had this, going back to YouTube, there are these videos where it's like videos of real people talking about real stuff that they never would have unless they were put on this show. Like shout out to The Cut on YouTube. Like there are so many, the And series, like there are so many of these where they're like, we're gonna sit you in a room together, give you a bunch of cue cards, and you're gonna talk about stuff. And like the cards are like, what do you want to say sorry about to me? And it's like, or like, when is the time that you hurt me the most? What is the secret you've been keeping from me? And it's stuff that's like, it's not like coffee shop conversations. It's like,
no,
we're getting into it, and I drink that stuff up. It's so good. And I mean, I guess being an actor, you know, we feed off of these raw emotions, right?
Yeah.
And I had this idea basically at the beginning of everybody's sort of lockdown to take a little peek into the lives of some of those people who are dealing with some of those things. And you hear all those stories about people, the joke is always like, well, you thought you were great together, but then you had to quarantine and now you realize you hate each other, you know? So I wanted to kind of peek behind the curtain, see what that was like. And I ended up just reaching out to some couples I know. And we did it over Zoom, and I just asked them a bunch of these sort of like, I eased into it a little bit, but I ended up getting into some pretty intense questions. And and I'm sitting on all that footage. I haven't done anything with it yet. I will, or else it's just weird that I have a bunch of videos of these couples talking about their relationships just for my own viewing pleasure. It has to one day get out into the world.
Yeah.
For my own sake. But yeah, it was just, you know, it was an insight into majority of these people weren't actors either. So it was just like people who don't know how to communicate that well, communicating. And sometimes people need that push to do so. And everybody who was involved in the project was very open and very forthcoming with all their stuff. So it was, for me, a great creative outlet in terms of just doing something to put out some positivity into the world. Like even if it was just the couple, that, you know, everybody left it feeling much better. So it's like, great, at least I can, you know, help in some way, shape, or form. And that this is one of the ones that was actually made, because I have these ideas all the time. Some of them they don't get made, some of them they do, and then I sit on the forever. Some of them I make, and then it makes it out into the world. But I like to keep expectations low, so that if I miss them at all, then it's
If you could give us a little like teaser about the whole project, what did you learn about yourself and or the couples during your whole interview process?
Well, as much as I could, I tried not to make it about me, because at the end of the day, it wasn't. I was more or less just the question machine, you know? And what I wanted to, you know, any kind of thing like this that I do, Lucas, I'm sure you can, you know, I'm sure this resonates with you, but anytime I'm doing stuff out in the world, that's like a little bit, I'm going to say invasive, but like, you know, I'm not invading people's privacy per se, but it's like, it feels like homework to me as an actor. Like, I want to know what these two people are going to react like with this question. What does this relationship look like? Because as actors, we have to be able to not replicate, but create these relationships. And you know, talking about Van Helsing, like I had to create this relationship with this girl I'd never met before. And what does that look like? And that for me was a great insight into different relationships and what that looks like. And a lot of the answers for the deeper questions were very similar. You know, like, why do you love this person? Or these kinds of questions. We're all speaking a similar universal language, but using different words. And I find that, you know, we're all taught all of these different things, but at the end of the day, we feel the same things. So while we may use different words to describe them, the feeling is the same. And being able to see that, like in a tangible scope, where I have one video of one couple saying one thing, and another video of another couple saying the same thing but with different words. It's just like, oh, we're all kind of the same, but it's just different surface dressing, you know?
Yeah. And I mean, all of that is really true in the sense that, like, not only from an artistic or passion or like the making of it, everything's so subjective, but also it's subjective because people are so subjective. Like, we're all so different. Like, one person may like another person, may not like another person for whatever reason. And it's like the one pursuit that, like, we each individually as actors or comedians, like, we can take our entire breadth of knowledge and like history and be able to take that and put it into, you know, our art. Thinking about, like, you mentioned Van Helsing and like watching your multi-episode kind of arc there, and I really enjoyed your role as Lee the bartender, because
Research went into that one.
yeah, because like I could see, well, I mean, I saw, wait, did you have a last name actually?
Nope, not on the show. No, it was just Lee.
Lee, yeah.
Beyonce, Shakira, and Lee. That's how it went.
That was it. But yeah, I really liked the role because it was like you did join an interesting little group of Asian male actors in a post-apocalyptic world, like Glenn Rhee from The Walking Dead, or like Monty Green from The 100. You got Lee the bartender as well.
Maze Runner too. It's all
yeah, Lee Hong-ki in Maze Runner too. You joined the pantheon of Asian male actors there.
Just trying to survive, yeah.
But not only that, but like the role itself, it gave you a lot of opportunities to test out your range, because you were the love interest of one of the main characters, Violet, and later on you got some action sequences as well. So in terms of that kind of opportunity, how did you approach it? Because it seemed like a first big, really juicy role that you could get. How did you approach it going into it? And then when you came out of it, is like, what did you learn?
Yeah, well, Van Helsing itself was just a very interesting process from start to finish. Going back to even the audition process and everything like that, I actually auditioned for the brother of Violet, who is my girlfriend in the show. So initially, there are two sisters on the show, and initially it was supposed to be a brother sister. So I auditioned for the brother actually. But they decided to do sisters. And then weeks later, I basically heard, I got a call back for that one, and they were like, great, they like you, so, you know, just we'll see. And then they were like, sorry, they're turning it into a girl. And I'm like, I know I'm pretty feminine, but I can't quite go that far with it.
Yeah.
But so basically they were like, okay, thanks though. And then another week or two later, I was gearing up to do a theater show actually. And I was at the first rehearsal when I got an email from my agent being like, hey, so they want to offer you a different role. Wow. Van Helsing wants to offer you this recurring role. I was like, great, sorry, I can't do the play. As much as I would love to. And my director as well was just like, no, you got to go do that. Like, you're getting multiple episodes on the TV show, go do that. So that whole process was a little bit, you know, kind of confusing to begin with. And then we were shooting pretty soon after that. So all of a sudden I had to catch up on the show. I watched the 3 seasons. I watched 4 seasons of that show. No, 3 seasons of that show in 3 days, in order to get the background on it. And it sounds like, oh, great, you had to watch TV for 3. No, it became work. Every waking moment I was watching this show. So, you know, having to get the background of the show there, and then going into filming it, I wasn't a big enough character where they're like, yeah, here, have all the scripts, because I didn't know what was going on.
Right.
Even they were introducing a bunch of new characters like Violet, my girlfriend as well. And I kind of had to piece together what I could. And one of the biggest lessons I learned was come to set with as many ideas as you can. And then hopefully once you're there, you can narrow it down to which ones are more accurate. Cool. And I was fortunate enough to have one of the writers on set. I think they had the writers on set for most of the shoot dates. So I was able to ask all those questions that I wasn't sure of, like there's this one scene where she asked me to run away with her and I shut her down. And I'm kind of a dick about it. So I asked the writer, I was like, I didn't get the script for the next couple episodes yet. So I was like, do I redeem myself or am I just kind of a prick, He's like, no, you have a big redeeming moment. I was like, okay, great. Because that then changes how I play the scene now, right?
Yeah.
Nice.
But if you don't prepare yourself to do either one, then you're kind of working on the fly, which negates most of your preparation that you did to begin with, right? So over prepare, bring as much as you can, be available to do any option, and then you can hone in from there. So I was that character was great. I got a little bit of everything. Yeah, I got the romance in it. I got to be kind of a smarmy bartender, which has always been my dream. The amount of times I wanted to yell at customers at the bar, I got it all out in those scenes. And then I got a little bit of action as well. And I was super fortunate to be involved in that storyline, because that new season of Van Helsing was also like, hey, we're not diverse enough. We're gonna do all of the things. So they brought in me and my Black girlfriend. So they're like interracial couple, and then the other side they were like the girl and her girlfriend, lesbian couple. So they were like doubling down on the diversity, right? So it felt really nice to be a part of something like that as well, and not be like the Asian nerd who, I mean, I did need to get saved, but it wasn't like I'm cowering behind the bar or something like that.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
It was an equal saving, type of moment. And it's like, female empowerment as well, strong female lead. And then it's I think it's what it is as long as we saw that the Asian male identity was on the same level as, whatever the other partner in the scene is, or like the tone of the series is, because that's the thing where is missing a lot historically. But thankfully, as things get better and more roles are now opened up, and like I don't even know if exactly like Lee's backstory or even the way he handles himself isn't so specifically Asian, right? It doesn't feel like it has to be. It's like, oh, this is an identity type of thing. Just because he's Asian, whatever. No, he felt like a regular guy and he just happened to be Asian. And that seems like the next step that, like, in terms of what we want as representation should be.
100%. That's always been my goal. As much as I do enjoy like winning, I love seeing that, more Asian roles are coming out. I've always said, like, put me with the other guys. Let me compete with the other guys, I want there to be an open ethnicity call. And I'm like, I'll show you that I'm the best one for that one. Or maybe I'm not. But I want to be in that fight, And I'm very Asian in the face, but not really apart from that. And actually, speaking of stand-up, like that is mostly what I talk about, because that's what I know, right? And feeling like I have to be that like Asian character feels wrong for me anyway. And there's a scene in Van Helsing where I do get to sort of divulge a little bit of my backstory. And again, I didn't get that script until I had already shot a couple of things. So I had to work on my backstory ahead of time. But luckily what I sort of prepared and what that scene said kind of lined up nicely. So I was like, okay, at least I'm on the right page. But it's like, my dad was an army guy, but I like grew up in the States and Germany and all these different places. I wasn't like fresh off the boat, and feeling like Asians have to be like Asian in order to be portrayed in these things feels wrong, because at the end of the day, Josh, like you said, we're just trying to represent real people on screen. And whether that could be, fresh off the boat Asians or people who have lived in Canada or the States all their lives like me, and don't necessarily identify with that apart from physically. There should be room for everything. But that said, we're not there yet. Hopefully one day we'll get there, but until then, it's we'll take what we can get. And I've said that for a while. It's better than nothing, but better than nothing is still not good enough. Like, if that's the bar we have, better than nothing, it's still not good enough. We got to get to good, not just good enough, but good. So.
Yeah.
Baby steps. We're working on it.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And we're getting close to time, but so kind of now that we've got an understanding of, where your backstory and your history and like some of the roles that you've been on in terms of like kind of seeing forward, I know like the idea of making it is always going to be a moving goalpost, but it was very exciting to see. I know you posted it on Instagram as well a couple weeks ago that you managed to finally see yourself on the big screen in the credits. Tell me that was a making it moment.
Oh, man, that was crazy. It sounds like the humble actor's excuse or like that thing you're supposed to say all the time, but I feel so blessed. But I really it's crazy. I haven't been at it that long. And for me to be able to say that is crazy. When I have to really think about it, I have to be like, no, shut up and like take your wins. But it was amazing. And I had, it's weird because COVID and theaters weren't open and I hadn't been to a theater since all that, but I was like, I guess I'll make an exception for this one.
Yeah.
So I went and two of my closest, my friends who were supposed to get married this year, they came.
Nice.
One of my old work friends came, my girlfriend was there with me, and it was just such there were only 6 of us in the theater.
Really?
And I knew everybody, right? But it was like it didn't matter, and it was crazy to me that I was up on the big screen, and when we shot that, we weren't sure what the distribution was going to be like, so we weren't sure if it was just going to be streaming, whether it was going to get a theatrical release. So for it to come together like that was crazy, and to not just play like a one-line role on that either, and to actually feel like I was part of the story. And it's such a great story as well, based on a true story. And the people I met on set were amazing. I had a number of days on there, like cast, crew, everybody. It was the culmination of exactly what you hope to be a part of when you're a creative, is a story that affects a lot of people. And the process making it was also such a joyous one as well. And awesome. For that to all come together like that, I have to remind myself every now and then, hey, you will look back on this your milestones, right? But for now, I'm like, when's the next one? I want to be the one on the poster next time. And I'm like, okay, just pump the brakes. But yeah, it was undoubtedly one of the most exciting parts of my career.
That's great to hear. And of course, the movie we were talking about is Two Hearts. It came out in theaters October 16th, I believe. And your role in it, your character's name is Shep, though I feel like I've tried looking for information. I couldn't really find too much, but I'll just hear it directly from the actor himself. Can you just give us an description of your character, Shep?
Yeah, so the Two Heart story itself is based on a book called All My Tomorrows, written by the father of the lead character. And without spoiling too much of the movie itself, because everyone needs to go see it, and I don't want to give too much away, but it was the story of two people whose lives seem somewhat separate and how they come together. And it was such a heartwarming, true story for me, reading the book and then reading the script. I cried both times. Just reading the story itself, does all the walking. You don't have to do much to it. You just got to just film it, and then people will be affected by it. But basically, my character is a very family-oriented, family-driven movie. So my character, I realized, was sort of the amalgamation of a handful of his childhood friends. That then was embodied in this one character, Shep. Being that sort of just outside of the family connection to Jacob Elordi, the lead, who's fantastic. That was sort of where my character's at. It was just after the family, and then me being around, playing basketball and doing all the stuff. But I gotta tell this story here because I don't know where else to tell it. There's a shot of me playing basketball,
okay,
and just the most brutal airball on the screen. Like forever now. That exists in the world. But the story behind that is when we were shooting that, none of us could make a shot. The backboard wasn't great. The hoop, the ball, nothing was great. We were all like, we had all played basketball before, but we were all struggling to make a shot. So the assistant director at a certain point goes, all right, guys, like enough's enough. First guy to make a shot wins $20. $20 American. He pulls out a bill. He's like, next guy to make a shot wins this. And I was the one who did it. And so leading up to it, I was just like, I hope they get the shot of me making it. Just, I want that shot to be in there. And I go into the basketball scene comes up. I'm like, yes, come on. Air ball. Just like no mistaking it, no cutting or anything. Just me getting the ball, shooting, and it missing the net completely. So that was one of the more disappointing moments of my career. So highs and lows all in one.
Well, hey,
regardless, it was a lot of fun.
You got $20, and if anything, that is kind of interesting. If anything, they chose that one shot out of many air balls to go with an air ball scene, because if they wanted a shot to go in, they knew who to go to as well.
Yeah, if they were gonna show an air ball, they might as well show the best air ball there was.
Exactly. Killing it. Should have yelled. Everybody should have yelled Kobe, and then that would have been it.
Yeah. I believe it was a turnaround fadeaway as well. So
wow,
but very un-Kobe.
So. Oh man.
Anyway,
but exciting to see that, and I would recommend everybody go see, because we got the very talented Ryan Jinn in it. I think we are coming towards that time in our podcast, the one we've all been waiting for, the Roulette. Yeah, I mean, hey, you know this game.
Yeah, do you have your new words? I warned you ahead of time.
I know. He caught me, guys. He caught me on my attempt to be like, oh, let's be, I want some consistency, or we'll see how all the other guests. Really, it was he called me out on my laziness. So I'm gonna come up with the words as they come at the same time.
All right. Which again, for the record, I appreciated the consistency with the word. I get what you're doing and I like it, but like I said, I've seen too much. I know how the sausage is made.
Exactly.
So.
You're gonna have the perfect Webster's dictionary answer to all of them, so it would have been pointless. Exactly. So I'm gonna get into the zone, and Lucas, you start off with your 10, and then I gotta riff it off after you're done. So let's get into that word association game.
All right. I'm gonna do this one like. I noticed people took their time a little bit with that. So I was like, no, we used to do this game actually, similar game in acting class where we would do like rapid fire stuff like that. But it always ended up sexual somehow. So if that happens, I apologize. Like not just the room itself. We always ended up in a weird place.
Yeah.
So if that happens, I apologize. But I'm going to honor the spirit of this and just go as fast as I can.
We love it. This man is playing by the rules, by the spirit of the game and the text of the game. Awesome. Okay.
Kobe.
Yeah, exactly.
Kobe. Yeah.
All right. In your Zen space, blank mind, all that stuff. Good shit.
Let's go.
Okay. First word of 10. High school.
Musical. Ah, God. See, I'm not going to like the answer sometimes, but here we go.
Growth.
Hormone.
Doctor.
No, thank you.
Love.
Actually. Oh, okay.
Helsing.
Van? Did you say Helsing?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Well, there that goes.
Okay. Picture.
Book.
Realization.
Situation.
Interesting. Quarantine.
Scenes.
Audition.
Nailed it.
Ryan.
Reynolds. Gosling and Jinn. Let's go triple answer on that one.
Yes.
The Canadian Ryans. Let's go with that one.
The Canadians, the 3 Ryans.
Exactly.
And Leung. Shout out to Ryan Leung for putting this together, making this happen.
Mm-hmm.
The old roommate.
My roommate, really. Oh, the old roommate friend from high school.
Yeah, Quarantine Scenes, by the way, was a group I put together over quarantine where we did scenes together. So that's why that popped into my head. So
cool.
Shout out to the Quarantine Scenes group.
Nice. That's hey, you know what? Hey, props to you going full board right away with the snappy answers.
Yeah.
I'm gonna go with 10 words. I don't even know what those 10 words are. So
Slick.
we'll see what happens. I'll go snappy, you'll go snappy. Who knows what's gonna happen?
Great.
All right. Are you ready? I don't
Yes,
think
sir.
I am. Okay, let's do this. First word. Airplane.
Crash. Oh no.
All right. Triangle.
Isosceles.
Hipster.
Toque. Beanie.
Kilimanjaro.
Hiking is difficult.
Caesar.
Milan. What is that? Is that what is
Dog Whisperer.
Is that
Dog
what that
Whisperer.
is? I've never
Yeah.
seen it, but it's in my brain somehow. All right.
Nice.
Cool.
Okay. Cranberry.
Juice. UTIs. What?
Nice.
Taxes.
A dermy. Taxidermy.
Wow.
Oh,
That's dope.
that's very clever. Baseball.
Boring. I'm sorry. I love
The
all
World
sports.
Series today.
Balls. See, I don't even care.
Okay. Suits.
Too many. I have too many suits. I worked in retail for a while. I have too many suits.
Mm-hmm. And finally, the first word that comes to my mouth.
Kumquat.
Wow.
Oh, were you? Oh, come on, yo. All right, I appreciate the kumquat because that's I feel like that's a tradition for me
Fruit.
as well.
People don't know it's a fruit.
People don't know what it is. Not sure I knew what it is. It's just a funny word. But hey, Ryan, that was a great performance. You didn't airball any of those.
Ugh,
I think you redeemed yourself.
let's hope so. Thank you guys.
That was awesome.
Yes, thank you for being a guest on our little podcast that's growing. Tell everybody, what your social media handles are.
I really only use Instagram these days. I'm not interesting enough to do Twitter. I have it, but I don't use it. So you can find me on Instagram at Ryan Jinstagram.
I like that. It goes right into it. Hug
for that pun. Ryan Jinstagram.
And Lucas, what are your handles?
You can find me across just basically on Facebook and on Instagram at Lucas John Ing. Again, NG, the last name, just 2 letters, NG. And Josh.
My handles are, I don't know why I said it like that, at Josh Yang Comedy across everything. And of course, if you want to listen to me while you go to sleep, I mean, you do you. You can listen to the podcast Sleep with Josh podcast. You can search it up. And also, of course, like, subscribe, and follow, retweet, tell everybody you know about the Have We Made It Yet podcast at HWMIY podcast, and like and subscribe, follow below. And of course, go out, support Ryan Jinn. He's a hardworking Asian Ryan out there. And go see Two Hearts out in theaters now. And you can see him on Van Helsing on Netflix, because I did. Great. Perfect.
Awesome.
We'll see you guys next week.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thank you guys.